we're playing Scotland and Ireland and Serbia, teams that are right up there with us that we need to be competing against and seeing how far can we go, what is our next level, and keep pondering on the idea of potentially trying to get France in for a game, and that'll be a very, very difficult one for us. Those sort of teams that we need to be pushing ourselves for now.
Today on the show we have Matt Rigby. Matt does a tremendous amount of work to help develop the sport of rugby league. He's the general manager of British League One club Rochdale Hornets, the national team manager for the Netherlands men's teams, and the head coach of the Netherlands women's team. We hope you enjoy.
In terms of getting to the championship, it's absolutely where we want to be and where we believe we as a club need to be. It is becoming a lot more difficult to get there, but at the same time the game is becoming stronger.
Matt Rigby, welcome to the show.
Cheers, Keith. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. We've been talking about the Netherlands for some time now, so I'm actually super excited to have you on. It's that nation that sort of keeps on chugging along, in my mind, with very little resource, but continues to absolutely impress on the world stage. But I'm sure we'll get to that at some stage during this chat. As always, guys, we've got Stuart here, who's my trusty co-host. Stu, how you doing, mate?
I'm very well, thanks, Keith, and really looking forward to having another chat with Matt about Netherlands and the Rochdale Hornets. Matt, last time we spoke, you'd just been appointed as general manager at Rochdale, and we talked about it being your dream job. Is that still the case 18 months later?
Yeah, 100%. So far, my time's been absolutely unreal here. And, as a local lad and, local club of the one I've grown up to love, I couldn't be in a better place, really. And, it's such a good feeling being able to make a difference for supporters and the wider community as well. We've got a great support network here as well, with our chairman, Andy Maisie as well. Been a fantastic asset for the club for a number of years, and long may that continue. But yeah, absolutely loving it at the minute. Don't get me wrong, it's very tough at times, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the support like for rugby league and the Hornets currently in Rochdale?
It's difficult. It's not quite where it's been in the past. Probably looking back to the 80s and 90s, you've had tens of thousands on the terraces at our old ground at the athletics ground, and unfortunately we are some quite way off replicating that in the current day. It's something we are building on, and it's been probably a difficult 10 to 20 years for the club, and we're just trying to get it back where it belongs. We believe back in the championship, and with that we need more supporters in the stands, getting behind us and getting behind the team and the coaches as well. So yeah, fingers crossed that can pick up very soon.
Speaking of the championship, Matt, you had a pretty successful last season, finishing fifth on the field. Is the goal to win promotion to the championship next season, and what needs to happen to put the club in that position?
Yeah, I mean, I think, this season has been brilliant for us as a club. Finishing third in the table, it's above where we expected to be, and just to some degree, we've probably overachieved to that on such a low budget as well compared to other people in the division. So, that's a massive credit to GT, our head coach, and we spoke about it in the background as well, that it's somewhat of a misjustice that he's not been nominated for Coach of the Year this year. How he's not been, first or second in that is beyond us, to be quite honest. But yeah, he's as a coaching team and whatnot, we've probably got one of the best in the division, and we've got great people around us as well that can really push us forward. Got to give a shout out to our player of the season, Lewis Else, who actually won the league player of the year as well this year. He's a tremendous talent, and we're extremely lucky to have him at Rochdale, and he's a massive part of the family that we have going forward. In terms of getting to the championship, it's absolutely where we want to be and where we believe we, us as a club need to be. It is becoming a lot more difficult to get there, but at the same time, the game is becoming stronger. So just a bit of context in that. So there's a bit of RFL restructuring at the minute, which is turning the leagues into 3 divisions of 12, which is absolutely the right thing that's needed for the sport. It's just very difficult for us when we're in that bottom tier trying to get up. So the championship has gone from 14 teams, and it will progressively go down to 13 in 2025 and 12 in 2026, which also means there's 3 more places in League One that have been added. But with that comes a new playoff system as well. So this year we had 10 teams in the comp, and there was 6 places in the playoff positions. And next year it's only going to be 4. But with that 4 comes 3 relegated teams to the championship. So it becomes very, very difficult. And absolutely for us as a club now, it's just getting to that playoffs, so, and that's probably going to be much more difficult than what it's been this year for us. But what we have got at the club is a really good culture within the playing group, and and supporters, and the connections are really, really good here. And we've just, maybe that's something that we just need to build on internally to really get us over that line for this year. And I've got full credit to the coaching staff, and I've got every possible feeling that we'll do well this year.
Yeah, we hope you will as well. Rochdale's one of the clubs where when I was a kid, I for some reason had a jersey. It was a signed jersey when I went through a collector's phase. I got a bit of soft spot for the club. But moving on to, sticking with the sort of structure of the competition, as probably all our listeners know, IMG have now partnered with RFL as of a few years ago, and everyone's got a different opinion on the grading system. What are your thoughts on the IMG gradings, including Rochdale's number, which is a slight downgrade? And what will the club put in place as a response?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost for us, we got to understand why IMG are here, and that's to raise the standards in the sport in England and UK and France as well. And to be fair, you can't fault that. Like that, some of the standards have been dropping in rugby league, and you look at some Super League clubs and Championship clubs were probably getting away with a lot of things that they shouldn't be. So I think the actual whole nuts and bolts of why IMG are here is absolutely the right thing for the sport. Overall, in terms of the grading, we understand where we're at. We've known for a couple of months in terms of what we were going to get. But yeah, overall, it's a little bit disappointing that we have gone down. I think it's clear for us just to get that message across that, there's 5 pillars involved in that. So you've got performance, fandom, stadium, finance, and community. So the 3 areas that we can actually control, which is your fandom, performance, and finance, we've all improved on. So everything that we can physically do, we've improved on. The community, you can't really change much because it goes off your turnover from your foundation, and the criteria to the next level is quite huge. And it also goes off your population census for Rochdale. The next one's not going to be till 2031, so we physically can't do anything about that. The one that we have gone down on is stadium, which is, for anybody that's been to Rochdale before, it's quite baffling that it's not been, graded better than what it has been. We're confident we've got a Super League ready stadium here, good to go. And, on that stadium bit, there was a new criteria that was put in this year, which is 10 in essence, bullet points that we believe we absolutely destroy in 9 out of 10 of them areas. So just to give you a bit of a lowdown on it. So, a couple of them is you have to have that 5,000 capacity. We've got around about 10,000, 2,000 seats. We've got 8,000. Your studio space, you have to have 4 meters, 4 meters, and we're at about 35 square foot. So it's there's huge bits like that which we believe we are miles and miles ahead of other clubs around us. But the bit that's really frustrating for us is on them 10 points, if you get 1 or 9, you're graded the exact same. So it's a case of you've either got all 10 or you've not. So, it's really difficult as well because there's clubs like Hull FC, for instance, who have got, they've had Super League Grand Final there during COVID. They've had European football matches there, internationals, World Cups and all that. And they're graded as some other clubs that might have a capacity of 300, in a smaller division. So there's some element to that, which is, if you're looking as an outsider or, from the Australians looking in, you've got to be thinking what's going on there, because that's just, it just doesn't add up. But I think that's all part of new systems. They'll all take time to adjust, and it's never going to be perfect, but it just needs a little bit of learning. And I think that's the bit for us. Like we can't be too downhearted with what it is, and these criteria will change in the next few years. And I don't think any sort of club or supporter will understand where teams are at until probably year 5, because these criteria are going to change all the time. We could go up, down all the time. I think for us is we're really, really passionate about getting a grade B this year, which is a 7.5 rating. And without that stadium drop in points, we would have achieved that. So it's disappointing, but we know between ourselves that we are in the right place, and we're doing everything as we possibly can to improve that. Yeah, so I mean that's kind of where we're at. But it's the other one is that the supporter sort of, and not just Rochdale, there's supporters from all over the game do believe that the gradings don't mean anything in Championship and League One, and to some degree it doesn't in terms of promotion and relegation, but it does now have a knock-on effect from next year in terms of your central distribution. So, the club's lost a few £1,000 just by not having a 15-metre gantry. So that's ultimately what we failed on, a 15-metre gantry, despite us having World Cups and internationals here in the past. and FA Cups against Tottenham Hotspur and Newcastle United, big clubs. For the football side, it's deemed not suitable. So that for us is a disappointing thing. But us as a club, we're doing a lot of right things. And one of the other things I just want to touch on is in that community base as well. We've now got a brand new facility, which is it's a training hub ultimately for our community. It's got 2 full size purpose built rugby league pitches, car park, changing facilities, community hub, cafe. That's the sort of thing that us as a club, we're doing some really, really good stuff. But that doesn't come into our IMG. But we know that the knock-on effect for that in 5, 10, 15 years' time will really help push us down the line.
Yeah, great answer. And for us novices that don't know, what is a 15-metre gantry?
Your broadcasting stage, I think you probably refer it to as. So basically where all your cameras are, your commentary team and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, where as a club, we're at 7.2, but, we didn't think it was going to be an issue because you look at it and you think, right, that's a big gantry. That'll do us. And it's not until you get your tape measure out, you think, right, we've got a problem here. And it's not just a case of adding like a temporary extension or anything like that. It has to be a fully built, purpose-made gantry. So for us, that's a very expensive job. And ultimately, as tenants to the football club here, it's not something that we can physically change. So yeah, it's disappointing, but we know where we're at. We know what we can change, and it's not going to change any sort of feelings that we've got to push ourselves forward for next year and on further on.
Yeah, that's a fascinating insight, Matt. And it seems as though there probably should be a little bit of flexibility around that criteria as well. But, obviously you can only do what you can do. You mentioned budget earlier. How is the club travelling commercially, and what has been the response from the community in terms of sponsorship?
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of commercials at the minute, we've doing much better than what we've done in previous years. And one of our directors, Carl Olstead, joined us last year, and he's extremely popular within the local community with a number of businesses, and has a lot of dealings and that sort of thing. And the amount of new companies that have been coming in and coming to a match day and actually enjoying that experience. Every time we get a new company, they absolutely love it, and that's absolutely what it's about, of getting new people in the community that want to come and have a day out. And to some of them probably never seen the sport before, but really gives them an insight to what Rochdale Hornets offer as a club and the opportunities that we have available. We had a new shareholder come on board this year as well, Jason Wilson, who again has done very similar to Carl and bringing in more businesses from the local community who, and it's not a case of us just getting money in for it's a case of widening our horizons and bringing in new people to experience the sport and experience, something different that they probably don't usually have. And, we've still got spaces available, but in terms of spaces we've had in previous years, it's a lot less than what it has been. And, we'll keep driving until we're 100% full, even though that's extremely unlikely every year. There's always going to be gaps. But yeah, in terms of where we're at as a club, it's massively on the up, and we've just got to keep going now. Because ultimately, if we want to be in the championship, we need to be maximising every opportunity that we can, and we'll keep working as hard as we can to achieve that.
Yeah, I love your passion and enthusiasm as well. And a club like Rochdale, who in my mind, such a historic club, belongs in at least the championship. But still on Rochdale, apart from the men's team, how's the women's and the wheelchair side of things going for the club?
Yeah, really good. So the wheelchair team are a huge highlight for our club, and they're an outstanding asset for the club and the foundation. We've got some really, really good people involved in that. Head coach Pete Hurd is brilliant for us, really. A complete no-nonsense sort of attitude and completely understands where we're at as a club. Probably just going to name drop a few people here because I think they all deserve mentions. Mike Hart, volunteer staff member, is our tag collector, but is a real asset to that team. You got a young player, Finn Hurd, who I think he's 14, 15-year-old. I could be wrong, he might be younger. So he's been allowed to compete in friendlies and stuff this year, but he's not been allowed to compete in the actual competition because of his age. But his attitude's great, and he's a young kid for the future. And yeah, he's great for us. Got female Angela Groot Holt in there as well, who's married to Dutchman Wes Groot. There's no link back to the Netherlands on that. It was just we had a Dutchman in there, and Wes is great. Got Kieran Holt, who's an absolute superstar. You've seen games where he's scoring 6-7 tries at a time, and I think he's slowly wanting to go into coaching because he doesn't really want the limelight. But no, he's a great kid. Got 2 Scottish internationals in there as well, Martin Dugan and Callum Young. There's a couple of other lads in there as well. But I won't mention everybody, but there's some really good people there that deserve massive recognition, and they're a massive piece of what we are as a club and how we want to perceive ourselves going forward. In terms of the women's team, we relaunched this last Monday, and we're kind of doing it a little bit different. So in the past, it's been under the foundation, and I think it's probably been the public perception that it's kind of been a bit of an afterthought to the club, and that's absolutely not been the case. But we feel like it needed a bit of a radical change, and what that's now going to be is that the women's team was going to come underneath the club banner. So the club will operate as a 13-a-side able-bodied club, which will have a men's and a women's team. So the women's team would play out of our new community facility at Boulderstone, but there may be opportunities to play curtain races at Spotland, which is absolutely where we want to be. And if those opportunities are available, then they will happen. It's been the initial numbers have been rather impressive. So just on day one, we got just under 20 expressions of interest to join the team. So yeah, it's in a very good place. I've had 6 head coach applications as well, so that's just added a couple of extra weeks onto my sort of work as well. It's great, and it's stuff like this which is what the club needs to be doing it really. And what I want Rochdale to be is I want us to be a real highlight in the sport, and I want us to stand out a little bit from other teams, and just sometimes it's more a case of doing the right thing for the community. And if we can embed the wheelchair team within that, it's fantastic. We've got a couple of other teams as well. So we've got a walk-in rugby league team, learning development pathway, Lions development pathway at under 18s level, and we've also got a learning disability team as well. So Rochdale Hornets is definitely a team that's a club that's open to the community, and regardless of your age, gender, sexuality, or any sort of disability, there's a place for everybody at Rochdale.
That's very impressive, mate. It's the club's looking very solid there. I just want to get your opinion as a local Rochdale lad. We have rugby league represented in places like Rochdale and Salford. Why do you think there's not a super club in the middle of Manchester? This is something that I think a lot of Australians wonder. Why it's not thriving in the middle of Manchester in a big populated city.
It's a very good question, and to be honest with you, I don't really know the answer to that. I mean, it's something that I think they've tried doing in the past with Manchester Rangers coming on board maybe a few years ago, but it was never to the point of they were actually admitted to the league. It could be something to do with just how strong the football is. I mean, I'm not a Manchester United fan when I say this, but you've probably got the biggest club in the world sat right there, and you got Manchester City as well. So it's not in case of competing with it, but when you've got that world class on offer already, do people need anything else? And that's probably why you look at the map now and you've got Oldham, Rochdale, Swinton, Salford, right around the M60 sort of ring road, and nobody's really gone into that middle part. So I don't really know the answer to that. I wish I did, because it would probably make me a very rich man. But yeah, maybe it's something to do for the future. And yeah, only time will tell on that.
It's a strange country, England. You can be only a matter of 20 minutes away and have a different accent. So yeah. It's an odd one. What are your thoughts on Super League, though? Do you think London and Toulouse should be there, and should the NRL take over the competition, or even take over London? Have you got any thoughts on that?
I mean, as a supporter, expansion is always my way of thinking. I think London and Toulouse have got great clubs, and they are very well run. But unfortunately, I just don't think they've got enough supporters. Let's say, and that might probably get a lot of criticism for that comment, but I just don't think there's enough supporters there to really financially back them to be sustainable in Super League. And it's good to have an owner to pump money in and stuff, but at the same time, it's for the other clubs as well. So, for instance, if you've got, if we ever hosted London Broncos, how many supporters would come and watch that game for us? And, in terms of revenue, and we talk about the budgets and how important they are now as a sport, that is ultimately the funding is going down year on year. So, for a club like us now, it's very difficult for us to say that's what we need going forward. Selfishly, we probably want more rivalries and more derbies, because it's going to get a bigger gate on the day. And that for us is our better avenue to proceed up the table. I'd love to see London and Toulouse succeed. I really would, but I'd also love them to bring 1,000, for an away game. I just know it's not going to happen. But never say never. I mean, if those teams do have that sort of stuff, then it's going to be great. I mean, us as a club, we're probably in the most geographical league, but the lowest funded league at the same time in League One. If you look at our map for next year, we've got 2 teams in Cumbria, 1 Newcastle, 1 Cornwall, 1 Wales, 1 Birmingham, and 1 in almost Hull. So, it's a very expensive league for us to be in, and the away support is quite critical for us in terms of producing more revenue as well. So, yeah, I mean, last year we did take some sort of initiative in terms of bringing in more theme days to the match days to try and get more people to come, for a featured event. So you might have seen it online that last May we had Superhero Day. We played against Cornwall, and it was something that's never really been seen in the sport before. So we had a purpose-made kit and everything like that, and it was so popular on social media, and we had a lot of people. Yeah, it was great, and we had a lot of other people from other clubs coming in as well. But that was against Cornwall, who, I mean, fair play to Cornwall. It's a long way to travel, especially when you've got 15 games in the north of England. You're not going to have all the sports coming for one specific game, but Cornwall brought about 20 for that, and I think given where they're at, that's good. But it does hamper us financially. But I mean, for that day there, we had an attendance almost at 1,000, which is somewhat unheard of for an expansion team coming to Rochdale. But still for us, where we operated that at a loss because we had to do reduced tickets and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm all for it. I just, if in a perfect world, yes, I'd have anybody if it didn't affect us financially. And before I came into Rochdale, I would have probably had a different opinion. Now I'm in here, I can see how much it does affect us. So yeah, that's not me being negative against expansion or anything like that, because obviously we're stuff with the Netherlands. I'm massively for it, but I do see the effects from both sides now. But hopefully that can change what in the future.
Yeah, I don't think there's a clear-cut answer, by the way, to all that. It's just something that I like to ask to see what the opinions out there are. You mentioned sorry,
stir the pot.
Yeah. You mentioned the other side to what you do in rugby league, and that's being involved with the Netherlands rugby league for a number of years now. What prompted a boy from Rochdale to get involved in the Netherlands?
A little bit of madness, really. So, me growing up as a kid, I was massive on seeing rugby league from another angle. I had the chance to play in England, and I was on scholarship here until an injury kind of set me back a little bit. So coming back, I didn't really just want to play rugby league, Sunday league team in Rochdale or in Halifax or somewhere nearby. Because for me, I didn't really see what I was getting out of it apart from personal enjoyment. I couldn't offer anything back to the sport, and that's something I really wanted to do. So at the time, I was, as you do as a kid, you do some weird stuff. So I was watching the American League, quite actively following that with the Jacksonville Axemen and Philadelphia Fight being the main two teams at the time. Did apply to actually go over there and play a bit. And at the time, I think I was either 16 or 17 years old. But at that age in America, you can't work, you can't step foot into a bar, you can't even hire a hotel room. So it's very difficult to make any of that work. So for me, it was more a case of actually looking, right, okay, well, what's nearby that I can have a look at? So I saw the Netherlands at the time was only 3 teams in the competition, and I'm thinking, right, well, that's 5 weeks. That's cheap enough to have a dabble, see what it's like and whatnot. And ended up going to Den Haag Knights and played against Rotterdam, and we lost 88-20, I think, the first game. But it was the best game of my life. I absolutely loved it, and just that feeling of being able to support new people to the sport that kind of respected you, even though you're only 16, 17-year-old. It was something different about it. And, that was in 2016. I've aged a lot, and I've lost a lot of hair since. And, it's been quite a tumultuous, 9 years. But, I wouldn't change my rugby league journey for anybody. I've absolutely loved it. And yeah, the work we've done over the past decade it's aged me, but I've loved every minute of it.
I know the feeling. But the sport seems to be on the rise in the Netherlands, both domestically and internationally. What's been the key to success?
Yeah, it's hard to pinpoint a specific thing, but I just think persistence is absolutely key on this as well. So, capitalize on any sort of momentum, and, it's not a case of just having one game and then coming back 6 months later and expecting it all to be the same. It needs to carry on and needs to be persistent and continuous and keep that momentum. When I got onto the board, we focused a lot on social media improvements. What we realised is a lot of people that play the sport voluntarily and pay to play that, their own sport. All they want is a bit of kit, a bit of recognition in the face on social media, and it goes so far. Like, we were doing little bits like team of the week and whatnot, and it was a bit gimmicky, but people loved it and people interacted with it, and it had a bit of a knock-on effect to bring in more people in as well. And I can't just say it's all down to social media, but it does help massively, and I think it also improves that sort of professionalism in that environment as well. And I think a part of that is setting a real rugby league culture as well. Netherlands is a very rugby union dominated country in terms of the two sports, and the amount of money involved in rugby union is huge. It really is, and they've got a semi-professional league there, which obviously pays quite a substantial amount of money compared to what rugby league offers, which is it's a voluntary league to play in. So and that culture's kind of set in with Kane Krilic, who was our head coach last decade, and took us very far as we could do, and and that's been continued on by Dave Hunter now, who's just been a fantastic asset for the nation, and we'll continue that momentum now, and I think momentum's really key in continuing that, and sky's the limit, right? So we'll see how far it takes us.
Yeah, definitely. Matt, I had the fortune or misfortune of coaching, depending how you look at it, because I hate losing, against you when Greece women played the Netherlands late last year in Athens. At the time, it was obvious there was a lot of talent and potential in the team. What are your thoughts on what the team can achieve going forward?
Yeah, so our women's team is exceptional, to be fair, and a lot of that is paved down from their backgrounds, and the majority of the players have come from rugby union in the Netherlands, and rugby union in the Netherlands is, for women's, is very, very different to probably the rest of Europe, and in the sense of there's some real physical athletes in there as well who are physically fit, and it's kind of a bit of a blessing in disguise that you don't see a lot of rucking, mauling, and kicking in the rugby union for the women's. It's a lot of expansion play and set players, and it's I went to watch it thinking, oh god, here we go, rugby union. I really don't want to watch this, but I left there absolutely loving it. I thought the women's rugby union sport, it's as close to rugby league as you are going to get, and I think taking that and crossing it over with a couple of rugby league basics added in there, it was a very seamless transition. And obviously when we went over to Greece, it was we didn't really know what we were getting ourselves into. We didn't know how we compared across Europe. Like, we watched it and thought, right, we've got something pretty good here, but we had no idea how they would fare against an actual opposition that are actually putting pressure on you and stuff like that. But it couldn't have gone any better for us, really. Greece, obviously keeping 2 clean sheets. I don't want to bring you up, Stuart, because you sat right in front of me. But
bad memory.
Yeah, I think for us, it's stuff like that really, really does help us. And obviously we went on to play Italy away as well, and I think we beat them 56-6 in the World Cup qualifier, preliminary qualifier. And then we're really unlucky, I think, against Ireland, and I do think we're probably the better side in that game, and probably unlucky not to win it. I don't want to make excuses here, but we did lose 2 goals to a HIA failure after about 12 minutes, and that does factor quite a lot for you. It was our centre and our right side centre and right side and half that we lost, and when you lose a half and a centre that's a scoring machine, it does take a little bit of wind out of you. But credit to the girls on that day. It was an extremely hot day on a artificial pitch, and yeah, it was quite uncomfortable at times for the girls. But I think credit to them for absolutely sticking that, because I think we only lost that by 2 or 4 points. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, I think 2. Yeah,
was it 2? Yeah, so yeah, credit to girls for that. And then obviously we had Wales at home, which was probably one step too far for us. Wales are an extremely well drilled team under Tom Brindle, and I think for us, we kind of realised that they were probably 5 years ahead of us. But it was also good for the girls to see, that's the standard that we need to get to. And obviously, I've just seen Wales had a bit of a heavy defeat at the weekend, and
yes,
but at the same time, their performances are improving, and England are improving as well. I mean, England are in regular competition all the time, so you're never really going to really close that gap, really, I don't think. But I think for us now, the future for the women is just trying to get a regular domestic competition in there for them as well, and really get that sort of comparison with the men's, and give them the same offerings and that sort of environment. So yeah, we'll keep building, we'll keep working forward, and hopefully we can get to where we want to be. I think we have got plans in place to hopefully get a game in January, another one in April, and then kind of finish it off with a bit of a domestic, even nines or a small competition in summer. to then go into another international campaign at the end of next year. But yeah, our World Cup qualifying campaign obviously came to an end, and next one for us is 2028, which we'll go for, and we'll see where we're at in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, you briefly touched on it just before, but what are the plans for a domestic competition in the women's sphere, and what's the relationship with rugby union in the Netherlands like? Is it a good one?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the relationship is quite healthy in the women's. To be fair, it's probably because we've got a lot of higher end division players that are committed to our national team as well. So yeah, we've kind of got a relationship in the case of don't hurt each other and we can work together, sort of thing. So, and that's it's not in our interest to be hurting them in any way. So yeah, that domestic comp, we're looking at a few different avenues at the minute. Either it's going to be a case of tapping into the men's teams and having 3 widespread. So you really look at Zwolle, Eindhoven, and either Den Haag or Amsterdam teams. So you've got like 3 different parts of the country, and we do like a little invitational tournament like that, and we could potentially get some rugby union sides involved as well to ultimately open up that avenue for them as well to come and try rugby league. Because like I said, the similarity between union women's in the Netherlands to league is very, very similar, and probably in a positive way for rugby league, to be fair, more than union. So that's what we'll look at for next year, and it might be a case of we actually look at some form of origin series where it's either east v west or north v south, because our girls are quite widespread, and I think that just any opportunity to give them more games and more playing opportunities, it can never be a bad thing. So that's what we'll keep looking forward to.
Yeah, that sounds good. The men's team had a good year with wins over Serbia and Scotland and a narrow loss to Ireland. What's been the key to their success?
Key to success, I'm going to say the coaches, otherwise I'll get beaten up if I don't. So, but no, the coaches are outstanding, and it's really good for our culture in terms of we've got Dave Hunter, who's come from a Kiwi, but he's had that experience with Norway, and and he understands the sport in Europe and how it operates. But the other one for us is we've got 3 assistant coaches: Paul Dirkswager, Ben Dommershausen, and Hannes Bavius, who are all ex-Dutch national team players, which is really important for our culture. It's not a case of bringing in a coach from another country or anything like that. It's having lads that have been there, seen it, done it, worn the t-shirt, etc., etc. So that for us is a really good cultural element. Just to kind of top that up as well, you've got a fantastic domestic core, a lot of players there as well who play in summer, and it's playing that league for a few years, and it's physical. It really is physical, especially with the heat conditions as well through summer, and it's good to have that. We have tapped into a couple of heritage players, and I know we've probably got the raps for it a little bit online, and quite harsh and unfair, I would say, to some degree. So in terms of our heritage, it's something we've always been against heritage players, and always thought it was a bit of an easier access to success. And we've seen it now firsthand. That's not the case for us. So it's not a case of just shipping in 17 Australians and that's your Dutch team, because it absolutely isn't, and it makes no sense. But what happens for us is we will announce our fixtures for the season, and then we'll have, no exaggeration, probably about 150 to 200 people from Australia that are saying, "Oh, I've got a Dutch grandparent, I want to play, and all that." But what myself and Dave do, we talk with these individuals and kind of understand why they want to play for the team. So it's not just a case of, "Oh, I've played in the NRL, you're in the team." It's a case of, "Okay, why do you want to play?" You do realise it's all self-funded. We won't help you in any financial elements like that. We won't pay you to play. And then suddenly you get whittled down to about 10 people that actually want to play for the right reasons. And that for us is the right way to do it. If you're willing to pay thousands of pounds to go and do it, and you're not just coming for a 1-year wonder, wanting to commit for a few years, we will invest the time into you and give you that opportunity. But bringing them players in, we're seeing the effects of it. It's having on the other players around them, the domestic lads that are seeing these players that have come. It feels like they come from another world of, they played rugby league all their life, but what they can pass on to the players around them is, you can't get that anywhere else. And when we do use heritage players, it's strategic, and it's a case of the right people. And if you look at our teams over the years, and when we've had heritage players that have been playing for 4 or 5 years consecutively, for us, it's like I say, it's that momentum, it's that consistency as well, and we'll only ever do it for the right reasons. So I think we brought in 4 this year, but again, we were playing Scotland and Ireland and Serbia, teams that are right up there with us that we need to be competing against and seeing how far can we go, what is our next level. And we keep pondering on the idea of potentially trying to get France in for a game, and that'll be a very, very difficult one for us. But those are sort of teams that we need to be pushing ourselves for now. Sometimes winning so many games in a row is just not healthy. I'm not saying we need a loss, but we need a much, much firmer challenge, and not just against 17 Aussies from another country. It needs to be a domestic growth one, and I think France offer that opportunity for us. So that might be something that comes up in future, and we'll see where we go with that.
So,
fantastic answer.
So, Matt, if Ryan Pappenhausen put his hand up and said, I'll come and play against France, what would your answer be?
It depends if you're going to pay his own way and pay for everybody else. No, we've had discussions with Ryan in the past before, and unfortunately for him, he's just had a lot of injuries, and it has affected him, to be fair. And I know he did come over to England for the World Cup a couple of years ago, and there was an opportunity for him to get involved with in the Netherlands. Unfortunately, that didn't happen for whatever reason. But yeah, never say never. But at the same time, we're probably going to save him for an actual World Cup qualifier or something like that. But yeah, like I say, our position doesn't really change. We need people that are doing it for the right reasons, and not just a bucket list that tick off because it's nobody wins from it, and all you ever do, you just annoy the lads that are already in the Netherlands that have had this guy that's come in, taken their opportunity off them, and never come back. Whereas, like I say, if you're there for 4 or 5 years at a time, you've got some players that are probably with us for 10 years, and they're flying in every year from Australia because they love doing it, they love the environment, and they want to be a part of it. So let's see if Ryan wants to come for 10 years, then we'll chat.
Hey, do you think that there's more that can be done to assist rugby league in Europe by the federations and the clubs?
It's very hard to say without me getting in trouble, but I kind of go back to the Rochdale thing with the expansion clubs. I think it's very different. If I was in their shoes, I might be able to understand it more, or see it from another side. But I think ultimately now for us nations, we kind of just fend for ourselves to some degree, and we have to go and find the fixtures and whatnot. And the ERL do assist in sanctioning the matches and checking player eligibility, and and bringing in referees when we do need them. But yeah, it's really frustrating because obviously us as a sport, we've never had funding. Since I've been involved from 2016, we've never had any sort of funding, and that can be a little bit disheartening at times. And it's I kind of go back to the World Cup qualifiers this year. If you're a full member nation, then you did get some form of funding. Because we were an affiliate member, we didn't get any funding. But at the same time, for us, it kind of goes back to that IMG stuff as well, of very similar to the sense of we're doing so much good stuff, but we're not being awarded because we don't meet a certain criteria. And to get to that full member status, all we need is a 3 or 4 team women's competition. But that shouldn't be the begrudging of everything. I don't mind having a funding with a little bit knocked off or something like that. But rugby league in Europe is becoming exceedingly expensive. And just an example for the girls this year, obviously we went to Greece of our own accord last December, but then we played Italy away in April, I think it was, on our national holiday. So you can imagine the price of that already. And I think it was the Italian bank holiday weekend as well. And then literally 3 weeks later, we were saying, right, you need to go to Ireland. Dublin is already expensive as it is. But I think either Taylor Swift or Girls Aloud were playing at the same weekend. So prices just shot up massively. And, I think credit to our girls on that, because I think some of them were probably spending €5,000 just to play 3 games. And that's the dedication part there. And none of that's funded. We don't get any funding off the government. And, everything's been self-funded for a long time. So I think one of the key things there is, can the ERL and can the IRL or any other, associate member from, NRL Super League be able to offer more funding to countries like that? Because what we are doing is a lot of very good work. I don't know, maybe these international federations need to have some sort of realignment and understanding on how do we make this more commercial, how do we make this more, widespread sport. And I appreciate that's probably already going on with the World Cup and whatnot, and trying to promote that. But I'd always love to see how's that going to impact people at the ground, grassroots and stuff. And you got a lot of nations in Africa that are coming through now. You got the Americas and Europe. There's a lot of countries involved, and I just think for the amount of work that countries like the Netherlands are doing, and probably other countries as well, like Norway, Czech, and whatnot, and Greece, Ukraine that, have been around for a long time, and it's just not like a 1 year wonder. You can see there's something progressing there. What support are they getting? And I know we talk about support and all that, but realistically, financial, whoever says money doesn't buy happiness is an idiot, because it really does. If you don't believe that, go and look at European Rugby League and look at some state there, and you can realise how little money can make a big difference. And we've just got to get that out there now. And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how to fix that, but there's got to be some sort of there's got to be some sort of futuristic looking way forward of how to drive more money into the sport in Europe and as a collective. But that's got to come from the international federations. But I wish I knew the quick fix answer to that.
Absolutely. And there was some news flying around this week about funding cuts and redundancies and things like that with the IRL and ERL, which is not great news, but we've all got to soldier on. Some positive news is you have Hull KR and York Knights going to Amsterdam for a pre-season friendly labelled the Amsterdam Challenge. How did that come about, and what will it mean for the sport there?
I can't really take much credit for this. This is mainly Dan Van Rossum that's kind of finalised this and finished this off. But I mean, this kind of started in 2019. Was it 2019? Yeah, 2019, I think. So it was a case of the Toronto Wolfpack were obviously in the competition at the time, and they couldn't play any home games in Canada because of the weather and all the rest of it. And they were playing games in like Newcastle and Widnes, I think, and playing it around the UK. So we audaciously just put a bit of a submission bid into them and saying, look, why don't you come and play in the Netherlands? And it was quite widespread on social media at the time, and I don't even remember it at the time, but we did propose Sparta Rotterdam as a potential stadium, and the ADO Den Haag Stadium as well, because the real rugby league stadiums, in terms of the close proximity to the pitch and how they feel and stuff, and trying to get a Toronto game over it would have been huge, and it was massive at the time, on social media and stuff. And I remember seeing it on like Sky Sports and BBC News in England, and I'm thinking, wow, this is crazy. I didn't think it'd get this sort of attention. Fortunately, we never heard back from Toronto, completely ignored. So that was a little bit disheartening. But OKR took interest at the time. So, one of the chaps there reached out back end of 2019 and kind of said, look, I love the idea. We'd love to do something. Because I think the initial idea was then to bring a Super League game against, again, I'll go back to the expansion thing. They want to bring an expansion club, probably to Catalans at the time, that will have a low attendance and bring that to the Netherlands, because it's going to be a lesser revenue stream that they're going to miss out on. So that's something we actively looked at, and then kind of COVID came along and it kind of didn't get kibosh, but it was kind of like, we need to prioritize other stuff right now, on both sides that was. And then obviously with the Hull KR partnership in the last couple of years, it's kind of blossomed into this idea as well. And it's great to see it. It really is. I just thought we get that stadium filled, and I truly think we will do. It is only a 4,000 capacity stadium, but I think this is year one of a 5-year deal. But I think the first 2 or 3 years are in the Netherlands, guaranteed. So hopefully we can sell it out. Hopefully we can go to a bigger venue and keep moving on. But I think the impact this could have for Dutch Rugby League could be huge. But the bond and players and staff and whatnot, we need to capitalise on that. It can't be a case of just filling a stadium and that'll be done. We need to be getting into schools around the time. We need to be making sure this is a legacy piece as well, and really, really push on and drive this to get more people involved. I know the Bond are looking at potentially doing a curtain raiser and potentially a mini tournament on the Friday night the day before. So there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of things that aren't confirmed yet, but we are working on it. And one of the things that for us as the women's team, we are trying to get an international before the Hull KR game. It's just because everyone's flying in, it's suddenly become very expensive that weekend. So we are struggling because it is only 2 months away as well, and people have got Christmas coming up and all the rest of it. So money suddenly disintegrates around this time of year. But yeah, we're actively working to try and get something going on there, because I think if you've just got the game as a standalone event, it's not good. That really for the sport in the country, and I don't really see what benefit it brings. So yeah, let's see what happens over the next couple of months.
Yeah. Have you had any traction with rugby league with the youth or in the schools at this stage?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've done a few clinics and whatnot. So our president, Dan Van Rossum's got his own sort of company on the side called Run It Straight, which ultimately goes into schools and gives opportunity to kids to play rugby league. And it's not a case if we've just got the same school all the time. It's trying to get out to as many as we possibly can. It's just that thing, if we don't have the youth section for them just kind of transition into, it's just a case of come and try rugby league. This is a sport, but then there's nothing really else after it. It's probably our only downfall. Personally, got a great relationship with the British school in the Netherlands. It feels like home for me because I can speak to people without having to say, repeat yourself 3-4 times in a foreign accent, foreign language accent. We've had 2 international games there. So we played Germany in the Griffin Cup a few years ago. And about 5, it was our record attendance of about 520 something. And we played the RAF there last month with the women's. So we've got a really good relationship with there. And Tom Archer there, who's a Birmingham lad, but he's a Bradford Bulls fan, which I'm trying to educate him that Rochdale's the way forward. But there's a real good relationship there with BSN, and hopefully that's something we can really blossom into. And I am hopefully going to try and get another game there at the end of 2025. So fingers crossed we can really push for that now with the whole KR game and get more and more schools on board in January.
All right, Matt, you've got through all the rugby league questions. Now coming up is my food question that I like to ask every guest that we have because I love food. So, favorite cuisine, will we find it in Rochdale or will we find it in Amsterdam or somewhere else in Europe? What's your favorite cuisine and your favorite dish?
Blimey, what a question. I think the easiest answer is probably Italian because the versatility in Italian food is great, but
yeah,
I think that's just too much of a boring answer, and I kind of don't want to go with that. Let's be a bit controversial here because I get a lot of stick for praising British food and saying that British don't have a culture in food apparently, but it's home is where the heart is really for me, and I don't think you can go wrong with English food and proper comfort food like I don't know, shepherd's pie, Sunday roasts, that sort of thing. Yep. That's and anything meat, 2 veg and a bit of gravy is
Cornish pasty. Sounds about a Cornish pasty.
That's way too slow for me, but exactly that sort of comfort food, winter style, Northern England. That's where we're at, and that's me being boring. But I do get a lot of stick from the Dutch lads saying British people don't have culture in terms of food, but yeah, I think they want to have a look in the mirror, look at the Dutch one because it's not got much to offer, to be honest. But yeah, I'll stick to the home and I'll say British is the best cuisine in the world, and yeah, I expect a lot of comments on your post for that because that's not going to go down too well.
I fully respect that answer. I think it's a good answer. Actually, believe it or not, we're all out of questions by now. Have you got anything that you want to add?
No, there's nothing much for me to add apart from if anybody's listening to this and coming to England and want to try and watch some rugby league at Rochdale, come and get in touch, and we'll have something going on down at the community hub, or if we've got a game at the stadium, we'll look after you. So yeah, thanks for your time, chaps, and yeah, up the Hornets and come on the Netherlands, I think is the 2 ones we'll finish on. Absolutely, and it's a good place to finish. Stu, actually, you got any final words?
No, but I'll be over there watching the Hornets at some mate. So I'm glad to know you look after me.
Absolutely.
All right, Matt Rigby, absolute pleasure.
Cheers, guys. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Everything Rugby League. If you like this episode, give the show a follow and leave a review. For more news and insights, follow us on Facebook or head to everythingrugbyleague.com.